And it's the snowiest February in 70 years in Seattle, Washington.
Live from San Francisco on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network, you are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How are you, everybody? Mike Sempervive here with you. Welcome to the show. Riding solo today. I'm all lonely. So if you want to give me a call, I really appreciate that. I'd also appreciate you calling just because it's going to make producer Tom put in some work, which he's not used to doing, except when Brian's not here. 1-800-878-PLAY is the number, 1-800-878-7529. And there are a lot of things to talk about. Hopefully some of you are listening to me right now as you furiously put in your pre-sale code into the system as you try to pick up all Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing tickets. They have gone on sale 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. About 6 minutes ago on their Twitter, let's see, actually it's been about 30 minutes now. I guess about 2:30 they sent out an email that said, due to high volumes, codes are still being emailed out. We thank you for your patience. All codes should arrive by 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know how many times they said, we thank you for your patience. Please be patient. At the press conference a couple days ago, Thursday, at the MGM Grand, I don't know how many times that Excalibur and Alex Marvez may have said that during the broadcast, knowing that they may have problems with tickets and that it may be a big old fat cluster. But hey, the All Elite tickets have gone on sale today, and it is a busy Monday. It used to just mean Raw, and we'll have the 5-point preview of that, but also an IWGP World Heavyweight Championship change. Switchblade Jay White has knocked off Hiroshi Tanahashi. Do you have tickets to Madison Square Garden on WrestleMania weekend? Are you a fan of Jay White? Are you happy with this decision? And now that this decision has been made, who do you want to see Jay White face at Madison Square Garden for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on New Japan ROH WrestleMania weekend? Big day. Let me know what you think. 1-800-878-PLAY. Get a hold of me on Twitter as well, at Sempervive. We'll be right back to get this thing started. Wrestling Observer Live.
Bro.
Mike Sempervive here with you. Wrestling Observer Live. Well, I'm checking my Twitter feed right now. I don't see anybody boiling over about AEW tickets being on sale. Went on sale 3 p.m. Eastern Time about 12 minutes ago if you're listening live. Somebody, Jordan Haas, I know you're sick of AEW speculation, but do you think the Double or Nothing event is going to expand the telecast, in parentheses, Fight Network /Twitch, or have a pay-per-view buy of some kind for those who can't go but want to tune in? Hell yeah. Absolutely. I think that was probably always in the works. I can't believe that it wouldn't have been. They're saying with the stage that they could only get about 11.6 in there, I think. I think Cody sent out a tweet to somebody that asked about there being 16,000 seats in there, that if they move around some of the production, they may be able to get another 500 in there. I don't know what the truth is there. Cody's a promoter now, as well as just being a wrestler. So I don't know. And I don't know anybody that, like, scales and grades the building for the MGM Grand. But 11.5 sounds believable to me. And even if it was 15, you got to go in there with the expectation of the hope you're going to sell the thing out, and you have some history to go with, and you have some buzz, and you know from this pre-sale what it's going to be. But even before today, I think you have some general idea, and you can only get X amount of people in there paying X amount of dollars. How do you maximize that? You do the same thing you did the last time. Put it on pay-per-view and just see who buys it. I think the bigger question is, are they going to be able to get a suitor for a pre-show or some other way to hype this thing up in the general public to the non-AEW wrestling fan, to the non-wrestling fan, to the lapsed wrestling fan, whatever. How do they get it out there to anybody that wouldn't be listening to this show that diehard? T-Lover86, this isn't good news. It's now 3:11 p.m. on the East Coast, and I still haven't received my pre-sale code for Double or Nothing. Tyler England, I've been in the waiting room for 10 minutes. Well, this is going to be a tough one. Yesterday on the show, when Brian said, pronounced it was going to be sold out, I didn't realize that it was not paying attention this weekend to too many AEW dealings, and I hadn't heard the Dave Meltzer shows that he did where he spoke to Kenny Omega and to Tony Khan and brought up the fact that pretty much all the pre-sales were sold out anyway, so there were going to be no tickets left on sale for the general public. It's looking that way. We'll see how the secondary market is for this. I'm sure it's going to be quite robust. I don't think the secondary ticket market will be as robust for IWGP Heavyweight Championship title tilt tickets at Madison Square Garden, even though I believe that there are some people out there that have said, I'm going to sell my tickets. I will never watch New Japan again. I am walking away. In fact, I know there's somebody from the tweets I've gotten in the last couple of weeks that if IWGP Championship, if there was a change in that belt and it went to Jay White, that they would be giving up on New Japan World and New Japan in general. So if this person sticks to their guns, New Japan, you've lost one with the coronation of Jay White as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. It is the only match I've seen from New Beginning in Osaka from this morning. And it was excellent because that's what Hiroshi Tanahashi does. 4 stars. Not as epic as some other IWGP Championship changes in recent memory, but I don't know if it was necessarily supposed to be that way anyway. It was supposed to be a passing of a torch in some way. It's supposed to be a championship change made to not only surprise but to move things forward. But it was also left to leave a whole lot more room open, including a revengeful Tanahashi trying to figure out some way to beat this guy who has his number and who's been the man to spoil his reincarnation, his reemergence as the ace of the company after some hard times, after wondering if a new style, was going to take over. If you listen to that interview with Kenny Omega and Dave, you know that there is true tension between Kenny Omega and Hiroshi Tanahashi over their views on pro wrestling and where they wanted New Japan to go. You can hear it in Kenny Omega's voice, as well as he admits it, too. Tanahashi has as well. It's been a big rivalry. But Tanahashi overcame all that, and in storyline form, it was him being put back on, the balance of New Japan being leveled again with the savior, with the ace. The forever ace. And in comes Switchblade to cut his Achilles. And he did so on that reign. And it would seem kind of obvious that Tanahashi would get a rematch, but they've done a good job leaving some things open. You're still at some point going to have that Tanahashi-Jay White match that ends up going to 5 stars, surely. Jay White's that talented. Whether you like him necessarily or not, he's that talented, and working with Tanahashi, they can do more than what they did today, and I believe that they will. But what's also now left open is a lot of options. And if New Japan is smart, they'll be able to read their fan base here in America and decide and know what to do when it comes time for WrestleMania weekend and the Supercard of Honor show or the G1 in America show. Who cares if that's what the title is? It doesn't matter. It's in Madison Square Garden. Naito has announced that he would like both the Intercontinental and World titles. And I did a show, the unaffiliated, untitled Mike Sempervive podcast, which you can find on my SoundCloud or over on the WrestlingObserver.com website. I talked to Alan Farrell, and he noted that you just don't say things in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So for Naito to hint that he wants to hold both the Intercontinental and World title, it could be a swerve to go in a different direction. But it could also be that that's something he actually wants. You have Okada, who Jay White defeated in quick fashion at the Dome on January 4th. Again, a storyline-driven match meant to leave more open. And you have Okada wanting to get back, being more serious, back into the IWGP title picture as the new ace. And now he's been edged out. He wants a title shot. And then you have Kota Ibushi, who's the most interesting name in this mix. A real interesting name. He came out on the show today and announced he's not going anywhere. He's staying in New Japan Pro Wrestling. What does that mean? We don't know, because Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega is the executive vice president, or one of the 17 that they have, of AEW. He's still got a deal. He can walk back into New Japan anytime he wants, or anytime that they would want to have him. Chris Jericho the same way. So I don't know exactly what Ibushi means, but one thing we know for sure is he's probably going to be far more active in New Japan than those other two guys. And with his presence there, and with his pronouncement that he's going to win the New Japan Cup, now you have that name in a mix that makes a lot of people happy. Not only in America, but in Japan as well, too. And I don't think a hardcore New Japan fan who's located here in America, who is spending the money to go to this show, I think if you throw the name Tanahashi, Okada, or Naito out there, they're going to be very happy. But once you throw Ibushi in there, now you've created some real intrigue, too. And made it really interesting and pulling at people's heartstrings on what they may want to see come this April. Especially if those people are pissed off and wanted Kenny Omega to stick around and wanted Kenny Omega in that match and wanted Kenny Omega to win the belt and aren't necessarily happy with Jay White. Could they take Kota Ibushi by proxy? Would they be happy with that? If you are, let me know. 1-800-878-PLAY. I know we got people on the line. I will get to you after the break. Get a hold of me on Twitter as well, at Sempervive. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
All right, back on the show. Mike Sempervive here with you. Flying solo today, so if you want to give me a call, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Like Kevin Gates, we got more than two phones. Burner phones all over the place around here. Most of them are producer Doms. We don't know what he does in his off time, but it's not important right now. What's important is you make him work by giving me a call. We got a couple people on hold right now, so let me go to one. Matt in Dallas. Matt, how are you?
Hey, doing pretty good. I got a question about Jay White and the recent championship. Do you think they're just slotting him in Kenny Omega's place, and they're going to have Jay White and Okada at MSG?
It's certainly possible. It's certainly very, very possible. On a Wrestling Observer Radio that Dave did with Brian a couple weeks ago now. This may not be a couple weeks ago now. Everything moves so fast. It may have only been like last week or something like that. He mentioned that Jay White seemed to be being slotted, or was being slotted, into Kenny Omega's spot for the year, and that was per Gato, the booker. So if you're to believe that and take that 100% right there, then yeah, I mean, that could very well have been the case. Kenny Omega mentioned during his interview with Dave, that's up for subscribers of WrestlingObserver.com on the site right now, that he was going to win the title, or at least it was possible, very possible for him to win the title at Madison Square Garden. So, you know, there was the possibility that they were going to make a title change with him, and they just decided to do it now so somebody could turn around and conquer Jay White at Madison Square Garden. Okada being one of those people, because you can play off the fact that, you know, he's been on such a good run with Tanahashi, and if Okada wins the New Japan Cup, that's a perfect time for him to try to come back and get his revenge on Jay White from the Dome. And it would be a name that I think would make people happy here in the States if he won the title. But I don't know if that's any more than Naito or Bushi or anybody else. Would that be something you would do? Is that something you'd want to see? Would be Okada face him for the title and possibly win it at the Garden?
I'd probably go with Naito just because he seems the most over, but he seems more over in Japan than he does America. So Okada makes a lot of sense to win in America.
Matt, I want to thank you very much for the call. Got to keep it moving. I don't know about that. I will say this. I think that the same cult, it's probably the same percentage of cult fans that Naito has in Japan. He's just as popular here. I mean, he's one of those people that I think American fans would love to see him win the title. I don't know if you'd want that to be done on American soil. It's something my partner on the Big Audio Nightmare, Adam Summers, has always brought up when I brought up the possibility of Naito wrestling for the IWGP title against anybody here in America and possibly winning it. Is you don't want to basically, leave your hardest hardcore fans out in the dust as if this was Jim Crockett Promotions going to Chicago and doing title changes and taking him out of Greensboro. Do you really want to crown Naito outside of Japan when those fans have really been waiting for it for a long time? You know what I mean? And that's, I kind of agree with him there, although the pop he'd get here would be huge. But again, there are a lot of options at play as far as that match in Madison Square Garden goes. Before I go back to the phones, I've been kind of staring at my Twitter here, a little bit distracted. Tyler England, who was waiting in the waiting room for about 10 minutes from before, I believe the VIP packages are sold out. I just got a message saying no tickets were available at that price level, which was $550. They had a couple of the packages, and the catch with the packages was you didn't need a pre-sale ticket for these. It was just going to be first come, first serve. And they had a super VIP meet and greet experience that would be rows 1 through 3 ringside. That was $549. And then there was also an experience for rows 4 and 5 ringside that were $339. Oh, actually, they had a lot more of these than I thought. Rows 6 through 10, $299, and rows 4 through 12, the corner of the stage, you could have a VIP experience there for $269. You get an on-site event host, which would probably be a guy in a red jacket just leading you to your seat. Early merchandise shopping, a VIP ticket and laminate, a Double or Nothing event poster, a comfortable lounge area to relax and eat, cash bar, and complimentary hors d'oeuvres. That's all of the stuff you get in all of the packages. The catch is if you were in rows 1 through 3 ringside, you have a pre-event walk down the aisle. So, yes, you too can walk down the aisle and get the experience. Now I want Game Changer Wrestling to have one of these where you can pre-event walk down the aisle and you can have the experience of what it was like in Puerto Rico in 1986. So, have that authentic experience. Get hit with batteries. Got to sign a waiver to do it. Anyway, back to this thing. You also have your photo taken ringside by a professional photographer, a meet and greet plus professional photo taken with all elite wrestlers. So is that the same? Is it taken by, I guess, a different professional photographer? I don't know if you have 1 or 2 of these. If you got both George Napolitano and Bill Apter running around. And then all the same things that everybody else gets too. The comfortable lounge area, event poster, laminate, on-site event host. Note it doesn't say concierge, so I'm assuming this is just, again, a dude in a red jacket with a gold name pin on, just leading you to your seat with a little rag to wipe it off or something like that. So I'm not sure how many of those are left, but apparently the biggin is out. Tyler just tweeted me back here at Sempervive. Update, best available with a quantity of 1 yields, quote, no tickets available. Work Smile Humble. The AEW presale has been chaotic. No, the site isn't crashing, but people are stuck in, quote, virtual rating rooms, unquote. All of the 500 VIP were gone instantly. And in parentheses, notes maybe never made available. Yeesh. Yeti to Rumble, though, has got some happy news. Took about 15 minutes in the virtual waiting room before I was able to get tickets, but I am going to AEW. So celebrate. Ryan Williams, now that the boss man isn't listening, are you going to answer his WrestleMania Weekend Open Challenge? No. Much like Dennis Stamp, I wasn't booked. Plus, no. Go back to the phones, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Arnold in Houston. Arnold, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. How about yourself?
Not too bad, my man. What's on your mind?
You were talking about the pay-per-view about AEW, and I think one of the interesting things is, the last time it was offered on ROH and it was on delay on New Japan, so we don't know how many buys they could have gotten, total. So it's going to be interesting to see, to compare the numbers between the two, for Double or Nothing. But the other thing is with these tickets selling out so fast, Dave mentioned last night maybe doing some kind of closed circuit events and maybe drawing people in that way, which I think is a good idea and maybe keeps a lot of people from being as frustrated with all these, hang-ups we're having with the website issues.
I could see that, and I want to thank you very much for your call. For some reason, I immediately think about Nitro Party when it comes to this. I don't know why. I don't know why, but that's like the first thing I think of. I don't think of closed circuit in this aspect and think of going to watch Leonard and Hagler or something like that, or even most wrestling pay-per-views. For some reason, this just feels like more of a Nitro Party kind of crowd that you can get in locations. But, I'm for anything. Yeah, look, take any aspect you can. If you can sell, it's at the MGM. If you can do what you can do for boxing and for big MMA events, or what used to happen with big MMA events, which is have viewing parties in other parts of the city, you got people in town for the weekend anyway. If you can make, some people who can't go to this show, if they're in town and you get enough of them to have a rally at the Hilton or whatever place that they're staying at, that's a pretty good idea. And I don't know how it works, as far as Twitch and the nuts and bolts of everything, but Tony Khan is really big into e-gaming, right? Kenny Omega is really big into e-gaming. So all of that stuff is streamed all the time now. And I'm sure that they have ideas on how they want to go ahead and do this. Obviously, they used Ring of Honor for some help last time around, but they've done things on Fight TV. Chris Jericho's Rockin' Raging Cruise, which, by the way, the second one has been announced, which is going to take place in January of 2020. AEW also put that up on their website today. Everybody's already pretty well versed at this point. It's not like the dark days of Ring of Honor where it was one bad thing happening after another. Things have changed, and there's a lot of money at play here. So, them putting this on and putting this out there as a pay-per-view event, I think is guaranteed. How they go about it, we'll have to see. If it's through Twitch or something like that, but. However it goes, it's going to be difficult for me to believe that they're not going to be making money off this that way. Go back to the phones right now. Joey in Lodi. Joey, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. How about yourself?
Not too bad. What's up?
Nothing much. Did you happen to catch, I think it was Brian and Dave, I think on Saturday, they were talking about AEW's TV and, whether they were kind of just discussing whether it should be an hour or two or how they would go about formatting, their TV programming. My question is so we all love the NXT TV show, and I think one of the reasons we do is because, it's great, but we also love it because, no one's oversaturated on the program. No one feels stale. No one feels overexposed because we don't have them every week wrestling. When's the last time we saw Raw without Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Elias, and all these guys wrestling? So my question, I guess, is...
Right there. Hold that thought, because we're going to break, and we'll hold you over. We'll be right back. Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Back on the show with you. Apparently AEW has sold out. We'll hold off on that right now and go back to Joey in Lodi. Joey, I'm sorry I had to cut you off there for the break. Continue on with your question, sir.
Thank you. Sorry. It actually kind of fits since AEW did just sell out. So one of their concerns with I was talking about like 2-hour shows, and one of their concerns was that they burn out everywhere with their product. And I think one of the reasons NXT has it, and granted for 1-hour show, is that they don't have everybody wrestling every single week. Raw, granted, is 3 hours, but when's the last time we saw a show without Seth Rollins, without Finn Balor, without Elias, without all these guys wrestling? And NXT has a show that's basically like, it's one big match, one match that like accomplishes something in a story, and then like a bunch of interviews thrown in. Do you think that A, they can maybe do this in a 2-hour show, and B, do you think their roster can be big enough to like, because you need a big roster to rotate guys in and out for that to work, especially in a 2-hour show. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they could. I like the formula, and I'm a fan of the 90-minute thing. I know Dave and Brian were talking back and forth about, an hour or 2 hours and what makes it worth it for a television company, especially if they're pouring in a significant amount of dollars. Are they going to want 2 hours because they're expecting you're selling them on a certain rating, you're selling them on a certain demo, so they want to eat up all of that. Brian was talking about, well, an hour is better all around. Yes, it is. But then Dave's argument about the money, and Dave's argument about the money is the one I think that kind of is the tail that wags the dog in all of this, because an hour is easy. An hour is perfect. Like you said with NXT, nobody gets overexposed. You can always rotate guys. You do it like the old style. In fact, you do it in a little bit of a different way than you do the old-style television shows, because a lot of times you didn't have any sort of hot main event. On most of the WWF shows, if you go back into the day, they didn't have any sort of hot event. It was just a series of matches that were meant to accomplish something, whether it was debut somebody, whether it was squash someone, whether it was have a semi-competitive thing, whatever it was going to be. It was all to further something along.
You didn't like Junkyard Dog versus Iron Sheik? You didn't like Junkyard Dog versus Iron Sheik? That wasn't a barn burner for you?
Well, at least you got two names there, but what you would have most of the time would be like Junkyard Dog against Mike Shaw and the Iron Sheik beating up Terry Daniels or something. So, and want to thank you very much for the call, Joey.
Thank you.
Because of that, again, I think it's easy to do an hour, but they're going to want 2 hours. But I think you can take that same concept and then adapt it to a 2-hour show or to a 90-minute show where you don't overexpose people, because you have a limited roster, like Joey said, but what you do have are superior athletes. At least you could argue that, but they are certainly, to me, far superior than what they were back in the day. They weren't the same type of sportsmen in some cases. The amount of double wrestler football players are far lower now. You got people that got into wrestling through a lot of other ways that don't have anything to do with that. But the athleticism is peak. So when you can fill time and have a 20-minute or a half-hour banger on each show, that's a good thing. And then you can still continue on with your formula through the rest of the show, where you are building up certain people. You are taking advantage of people when they're there for tapings. And again, we'll have to see how all this goes with when they tape, how they tape, who they tape for. We're a TV show that doesn't even exist yet. There's been all of this talk and rumor and innuendo, as one of their people would say, about where they're going to go. Turner stations obviously been the ones that have been talked about the most. I've heard a lot of different other ones. I've always been a proponent of Paramount. Now, Paramount is not in play for this, which is disappointing to me because it just seems like a natural fit, even though I know why and the reasons that they are not interested right now. I think they're, the amount of eyeballs it could draw to a station that's in the Midlands right now, I think could make sense. But there are some other bigger players or just as big at play. And we'll just have to see where they end up. Stevie J, the AEW presale has been a joke. I've been in queue for well over a half hour, never got through. And now I'm saying it's sold out Observer Live. That's what other people are saying. I don't know. I'm doing this, so I'm not trying to ring up tickets right now. And since I ain't getting invited to StarCast again, I ain't sweating it too much. You know what I'm saying? You got people who are tweeting that they're still in queue. So if it is sold out, boy, that sucks. You're getting a notification, you're not even getting anything. Nothing has gone up new on the AEW website, so there's no updates there that they're tweeting out to anybody. Oh, yeah, by the way, Raw's tonight. Josh Nason, my man. He's got to come back on the show again soon. We'll have to do something again real soon with him. Josh Nason's Punch-Out, available, always solid listening every single week on the WrestlingObserver.com website. He tweeted me or just sent me a text, let me know. Dave is saying it is officially sold out. So if you're on the phone right now, I guess hang up. Because sooner or later, it's just going to go dead on you. He also passes on that we're working to confirm if any will be left for the public on sale. Well, it doesn't sound like it. Unless it's those 500 tickets that Cody talked about and tweeted about could possibly happen if they move some production around. I think now it's pretty much a rock-solid guarantee that we'll be having a Fight TV and a pay-per-view, traditional, whatever it is. It's going to have to be made available to the people somehow now, right? Oh, I'll just shoehorn this in here real quick, too. Jay White won the IWGP title from Hiroshi Tanahashi. Talked about that. Mayu Iwatani won the ROH women's title from Kelly Klein in Lakeland, Florida. So, Iwatani, who AEW was looking to poach, reportedly, possibly, maybe, and she was going to be a very big part of ROH Weekend and appear at Madison Square Garden. Well, she can now defend the ROH Women's Championship. Does she do it against somebody from Stardom? We'll see. Be very interesting. AEW also, too, when they made their announcement on Thursday at the MGM Grand, Aja Kong, who has not wrestled in America in a long, long time, was announced for the show. And also Yuka Sakazaki was also announced. And Kenny Omega was big on her, if you heard the interview with he and Dave. But Miyu Yamashita, who is the Tokyo Joshi Pro champion and who is really good and, again, very, very talented, I wonder where she will end up one day. And if Kenny Omega's obviously got his connection still to DDT, it's hard for me to believe that, getting Sakazaki here, unless it was like one of those things where they were getting Aja Kong and she suggested somebody, but to me, if you were looking at Sakazaki, Yamashita, I wonder how much she was in play. And because everybody else is coming over here that weekend, I wonder why she's not. And if she's not with them, I wonder who with. Because she's incredibly talented. There are a lot of good women's wrestlers whose names fly under the radar. She's definitely one of them. Chihiro Hashimoto's another one. She had a really good match, and this is a small aside here with Meiko Satomura, who obviously can make anybody look good, but they always have good matches. But enough of that right now. Raw's 5-point preview, because Raw is tonight. Shoehorn this here at the end. Oh, this is going to be epic. After no time of being off of any shows, Becky Lynch, the suspended one, has been invited to Raw again by the McMahon family after her controversial actions last week. Becky Lynch sent both the McMahon family and the WWE Universe into a tailspin last week when she punched Stephanie McMahon on Raw and then slapped Triple H on SmackDown Live. The man's hostility stemmed from being suspended by Stephanie, a verdict that will stand until she gets her left knee examined. However, now, after being on the receiving end of the Irish Last Kicker's attacks, Lynch has been invited to Raw by the McMahon family for the second straight week. Will Becky's rash actions of a week ago have an impact on either her suspension or her anticipated WrestleMania clash against Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship? Issue 2. How will Seth Rollins respond to Brock Lesnar? Seth Rollins is resilient, but few superstars can withstand the fury of Brock Lesnar's F5, let alone 6 of them. One night after winning the 30-man Royal Rumble match, the Architect made it clear that he wants to challenge the Beast Incarnate for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania, getting a half dozen of Lesnar's formidable finishing moves in the process. The Kingslayer did not appear on Raw this past Monday night, no doubt still feeling the effects of that mauling. Rollins will be on Raw this week, though. What will he have to say as he prepares for the fight of his life against the Beast at the Showcase of Immortals? The Beach, I think I said. The Beast. Let me get some water. It's just like Rick Tuttle said earlier on, if you heard his show, we have no cough button here. Only Boss Man gets one of those. Did Finn Balor earn his Intercontinental Championship match? Intercontinental Champion Bobby Lashley told Finn Balor this past Monday night that if he adequately entertained the Almighty in his match against his hype man Lio Rush, he would earn a chance to challenge for the Red Brand's Workhorse title. Really? We're not sure if entertained is the right word for how Lashley was feeling when he saw Balor pin the Man of the Hour, but it seems like the Extraordinary Man, or is it the Extraordinary Man, has adequately earned his opportunity. Will Lashley acquiesce? Ruby Riott sets her sights on the Women's World Championship. Jesus, these things. Ruby Riott may have avoided an in-ring confrontation with Ronda Rousey after the baddest woman on the planet dispatched Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan in back-to-back singles matches, but at WWE Elimination Chamber, the leader of the Riott Squad takes on the Rowdy One for the Raw Women's Championship. Will Riott suffer the same fate as her cohorts, or will she throw the Raw Women's title match at WrestleMania into even further disarray by winning the championship? Will Dana Brooke go one-on-one with Natalya? 3-hour show. This is the fourth biggest thing on it. After costing them their WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Elimination Chamber qualifying match against the Riott Squad, Dana Brooke attempted to apologize to Natalya, but wound up getting the silent treatment from the Queen of Hearts. In her defense, Natalya was wearing AirPods and didn't hear anything Dana had to say. When Natalya ignored her, Dana said she would ask the McMahon family for a chance to prove she's a better competitor than the former SmackDown Women's Champion and will face the Queen of Hearts on Raw. Should this match take place, will Dana prove herself, or will she wind up regretting going one-on-one with a Hart Dungeon graduate? And finally, what's next for Kurt Angle? Thank God the music's there, because I don't want to say the monster among men so many times. Bottom line, did this chaotic turn of events change Angle's mind about his future in WWE? We'll have to find out. Don't miss Raw live at 8. Unless you do. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Ooh, look at that. Producer Dom coming in strong at the end. Stevie J. Finally got through the queue. Just now, no tickets are available at any price range. Oh, man. I wonder how many people can share that story of being hung on the line or stuck, however it is. 26 minutes, apparently. There still may be tickets that end up going on sale to the general public. You know, there may be some set aside that they have to put on sale. We'll find out here. Obviously, there's going to be people snapping them up, too. Well, it used to be on the phone calling for concerts and all that sort of stuff with Ticketmaster, and then to find out that you're trying to call for such a minute amount of tickets because ticket scalpers got them. This case, that doesn't seem to be the case because with the pre-sale codes and everything, they're apparently unique to everyone, but still running the same problem. A lot of demand for a limited amount of tickets. So good news there for AEW, I guess, and for anybody else who got tickets out there. But be a lot of people who are a little bit salty online, so we'll have to see what the scuttlebutt and the fallout is of this. And for all of that news, you can listen to Dave and Brian tonight on Wrestling Observer Radio for subscribers of WrestlingObserver.com. Not only all of the news from all this AEW stuff, all the news out of Japan with the IWGP Championship change, as well as a rundown of what happens on Raw tonight. So there. Don't worry, Boss Man will be back tomorrow. And until then, I want to thank producer Dom, all of you for calling in. I'm Mike Sempervive, Wrestling Observer Live.